Main accounts are maintained from the Chart of Accounts form or from the Main Accounts list page. If you have not linked the Chart of Accounts to the legal entity you are in, then you cannot create main accounts from the list page in the common area of the General Ledger. Before we create new main accounts, let's quickly review some key components of the main account. After the main account's header information is established, you can click the General FAST tab on the main account details form to enter the detailed information about that main account. The first level of detail consists of selecting a main account type. You can choose from profit and loss, revenue, and expense. These are used as posting accounts. The profit and loss account is used for recording revenue and expenses. The sum of all operating accounts determines the year-end results. The revenue and the expense accounts have the same function as the profit and loss account. The balances for these main accounts are rolled into the year-end result account during the opening transactions process. Expense accounts are used by the budgetary controls. You can also choose balance sheet, asset, liability, and equity. These are used as transaction accounts that record the amounts that a company owns or owes. If you use asset, liability, and equity accounts, the accounts can have a higher degree of specification and you can more precisely structure the reports about the company balance. The balances for these main accounts roll forward into the new year during the opening transactions process. Total accounts are used to add account intervals. For example, frequently it is useful to make a total of a range of revenue accounts to obtain a quick overview of the total sales for the current period when you run a financial statement. And reporting is the last option. This is used for financial statement reporting. If you select the reporting type in the type field, then you can select how the account is used for reporting. You can select header, empty header, or page header. Next, you can use the debit and credit fields to control if journal entries will be recommended, required, or prevent balances from being a debit or a credit amount. The related account field group allows you to link the accounts to offset accounts or opening accounts. This is useful, for example, if you use more than one retained earnings account, or if a particular account is always transferred to a specific account when performing the year-end close process. The administration field group includes fields that allow you to control the conditions under which the account can be used, and you can link the account to another account for consolidation purposes. The Setup tab on the Main Accounts form allows you to configure validation to limit or prevent posting with certain information. Validation exists for the currency, user ID, and posting types. Each validation can be configured for one of four options: optional, to be filled in, table, or list. The optional option indicates that the field is not validated at the time of posting. This is the default setting. To be filled in means that the system will verify that the field is completed for posting. The value is not checked, however. Table means the system verifies that the field is completed for posting and that the value corresponds with the value specified in the account. And the list option verifies that the field is completed with one of the values that are defined on the Validation List button. Additional tabs exist to configure settings for Management Reporter and to view the related advanced rules for selected accounts. By default, when you open the Main Account Details form, you are looking at the shared version of the main account. All of the data specified is shared across all legal entities where the chart of accounts is used. When you change the view of the Main Account Details form to View for a specific company, additional fields and settings become available. Additionally, certain fields are disabled and cannot be overridden per company. Allocation terms, which allow you to allocate amounts for specific ledger account automatically, cash flow statement settings, sales tax setup, and default financial dimensions can all be specified. Let's open AX and create some new main accounts. Main accounts can be created directly from the Chart of Accounts form or from the Main Accounts list page. I'll demonstrate both techniques. Let's start by using the Chart of Accounts form, which is found underneath General Ledger, Setup, Chart of Accounts, and then Chart of Accounts. We'll select the Contoso Chart of Accounts that we created earlier, and then on the right-hand side, I'll click the New icon to create a new main account. For this first example, I'll create a cash account. I'll use account number 1010. When you create a new main account, it's important to select the correct main account type. For this account, I'll choose that it's an asset. I can also select the main account category, so for this example, I'll choose cash. I can update the debit and credit proposal and requirements field. I can also enter the related account information, such as the offset and opening account. Because this cash account will be linked to a bank account later on, I'll go ahead and mark the Do Not Allow Manual Entry checkbox to make sure that users do not post entries directly into this account. If I wanted to, I could set active from and to dates or suspend the account to prevent users from using that particular account number. In the Close field, I'll want to select the balance option to make sure that when I run the fiscal year-end close process, the balances are rolled forward into the new fiscal year. On the Setup tab, you can view additional information and create validations. For example, if I want to validate and ensure that the currency in my cash account is always US dollars and Canadian, I can set the value to list, and then the currency code validation button becomes enabled. When I click this button, I can now create a list of all of the valid currencies. I'll select US dollars and Canadian dollars. Now, when transactions are being posted to this particular account, they must be in one of the following two currencies. Similar steps can be used to add validation for users and posting types. On the Management Reporter tab, I can select options that will control how this report will work with Management Reporter. And on the Advanced Rules tab, we can look to see whether this account is included in any advanced rules. Because we haven't created an account structure or advanced rules, this tab will remain empty. Next, I can switch the view to the company view so that I'm looking at a specific company's values. I want to take a look at the GLSI company, so I'll select the GLSI option, which will then populate into the company's drop-down box. You'll notice that when we select the GLSI company, several buttons and fields become available. On the General tab, you'll notice that many fields are disabled because they cannot be overridden or modified at a company level. You'll also notice some additional fields appear for allocations. If you go to the Setup tab, you'll notice that new sales tax allocations will appear along with the cash flow forecasting button. Two additional tabs will also appear, one for the financial statements, which are used for the legacy financial statement reporting tools, and one for financial dimensions. When you select a financial dimension on a main account, you can specify whether the value should be fixed or not fixed. The default behavior is that all financial dimensions are not fixed. If you want to force a particular dimension value into a specific main account, you can select the fixed value option next to the dimension that's relevant, and then choose the value. Keep in mind that blank is an option. If you force it to be blank and the account structure does not allow blanks, an error message would be received. So I'll select Home. In this case, I'm saying that the business unit of 001 must always be used with the main account 1010. No other values can be selected. I'm going to remove this rule because I don't want that to be true. So I'll set the value back to not fixed and remove the 001 from the business unit field. Next, I'll show you how to create a main account from the main accounts list page. We'll close this window down and go to the main account list page. Notice that I'm currently in the USMF company, so that when I open the main accounts form, the main accounts will not show the new main account that we just created. That's because the USMF company is pointing to a different chart of accounts. So if I switch to the GLSI company and open the main accounts form underneath common, the new main account that we just created will start to appear. Here you can see the one cash account that we just created. Next, I'll go ahead and create a few new main accounts. I'll start by making an accounts receivable account. I'll use account number 1310 and give the account a name, such as accounts receivable trade. In the main account type, oops, I accidentally typed the wrong number there, so I'll update that. In the main account type field, I'll select that this is an asset account. In the main account category, I'll select accounts receivable. Next, I'll create an accounts payable account. I'll create this number as 2030. And call this accounts payable trade. In the main account type field, I'll select that this is a liability, and in the main account category field, I'll choose AP. Next, I'll create a retained earnings account. I'll use account number 3030 for this. In the main account type field, I'll select that this is an equity account. I'll go ahead and create some accounts for my profit and loss statement as well. So I'll create a new sales account 4010 called sales, which I'll link to the revenue account type. I'll create a new cost of goods sold account in the 5,000 range called 5010 cost of goods sold. Next, I'll add a few expense accounts and then a total account to sum those expense accounts. I'll create 6010, which will be for general expenses, making sure to link the main account type to the expense option. And then I'll create a second account called 6020 for office supply expenses. Again, making sure to link it to the main account type for expenses. Now, I'll create a new total account that will sum these two accounts. I'll put this at the end of the range. So, I'll call it account number 6999. Total expenses. It's important when you're making a total account that the main account type is set to the total option. When you create a new total account, the Totals button on the General Fast tab becomes enabled. We can click this button to configure how the totals will be created. I want this particular total account to sum all accounts between 6,000 and 69998. Too many nines. It's important to note that AX will allow you to type in values that do not exist in the actual account list. This is useful if you want to add more accounts later on so that you don't have to remember to update the account intervals. The last type of account we'll create is a reporting account. So I'll create one at the beginning of the profit and loss statement, account number 4000, and I'll call it Profit and Losses. In the main account type field, I'll select Reporting, and then in the reporting type field, I'll select Header. This new account will serve as an empty line and serve as a separator in my chart of accounts. This account cannot be posted to, much like the total account cannot be directly posted to. Now that we've created some new main accounts for our new chart of accounts, let's take a closer look at main account allocations.